It's the state of the dungeon. It's a video that Rob does about his games. Yeah! Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I am Rob here in my basement lair. And today I have my State of the Dungeon address for the game that took place in April 2nd, 2020. I am not in costume as Corbrecht because this wasn't an episode that really Corbrecht did a great deal on. This was an exposition session, which means we got a lot of information dumped on us and kind of just railroaded through the meeting the different people and getting the information that we needed. So when we started, we basically... Oh, and this also, by the way, we are all still under the lockdown, and we're playing online on Roll20 for this session. We were in the Skyreach Castle, of course. We had just gotten finished dealing with Resmer. She is dead. We also dealt with the Dragon Glazier, the Cloud Chaser. He is dead. And the Ogre Servants of the Cloud Giant, Blagothkus, basically were routing the rest of the cultists. We didn't have to do very much else. Which is a pity, because I was looking forward to destroying the Red Wizards of Thay who were helping the cult. But they took off. They were gone. We could not find them. We tried. We cast Detect Magic, looking around for any telltale traces, but nothing. They were clearly gone. Some of the senior members of the cult also seemed to have fled, since several of the wyverns were missing from the stables in the castle. But at least ours were still there. We rested, just to make sure that we weren't assassinated or anything. We used my Leomund's tiny hut. We also finished proper looting procedures, got the treasures off of Resmer and her forces. Also, we opened up a chest, which only she could unlock, but we used her corpse to open it. A little creepy, but it worked. And we got the Black Dragon mask. Yay! So that was good. Now that we have this super dangerous, powerful artifact, we basically had taken care of all that we really needed to do with Skyreach Castle. When we talked to Blagothkus, his determination was to unite the giants to fight the dragons, and we're fighting the dragons, so we really don't have any, kind of dispute with Blagothkus. I mean, we would have liked the castle, but quite honestly, he could be a powerful ally, and he's already sympathetic towards us. He knows we're powerful enough to take care of cultists on our own, so we were fine with letting him fly off and meet up with the other giants at the spine of the world. We had to get back. So we got on the dragons, or the wyverns, flew back to the lodge. It appeared that many of the cultists had departed. This was only basically being held down by 3 senior cult members. And again, as Cult of the Dragon members, we were tempted sorely to just kill them and go. But we didn't, because we know where it is. And there's certain things there that are pretty much immobile, so it's just waiting for us as a target at some point in the future. At this point, we really don't want to end the schism between the old guard and new guard of the Cult of the Dragon. So I had to talk to my party members and suggest in no small terms that I really didn't want to kill these cultists yet until we have settled the differences with the other worm speakers. So it's work that we're working on. So at any rate, we got back. Wasn't much to do at the lodge, so we gathered up our other party members, so we're now this big marching group of 9, and we went back to the portal, back to the castle, Nerevar? Castle Nerevar. God, I can never remember that name. But anyhow, we're at the Swamp Castle. Nevitar. Sure. And it looks like the lizard men did everything they wanted with the bullywugs, completely purged them. They were getting ready to leave the castle We asked them, and they really weren't interested in sticking around. They have villages further out into the swamp, and we don't have a problem with them having their villages out in the swamp. As far as I'm concerned, the lizard folk acted honorably, and that's important to somebody like Corbrecht. Corbrecht is willing to accept anybody can be worthwhile and, act civilly, then they deserve to be treated as such and not treated as evil humanoids that need to be killed. There's far too many of those as it is. So if we left on good terms with the lizard folk, hey, that's great. Corbrecht even gave Snapjaw, the leader, or at least the one of the lizard folk who could speak common, he gave him a knife and was like, "This is for you," just to remember that I consider us to be allies. And it seemed to work out really well, which made me feel good. A nice little role-playing element there. So we walked through the swamp again, continuing to be incredibly important. Kytheon with his water walk, we just walked through the swamp, no problem. Quicksand? Pff, no problem. Flooded areas? No problem, we hardly got wet. Came to camp? Lehman's tiny hut. Plenty of room. Well, it would be really cramped with that many of us, but especially with a Goliath, but we made it. So eventually we get back to Waterhaven, I think it's called. And we just basically blitz through there. We stay there the night. That's about it. Nothing too serious. And we take the road. It leads to the leads back to the main road leading out of Waterdeep and heading off to this direction, going along the Mere of Dead Men. Fine. We even stop at that one inn that we know is populated by merchants who are traveling, and we know the kind of merchants that are carrying all these goods and treasures for the cult, which they don't need to anymore because we've disrupted their flow and they can't get the stuff to the cult. So while this is going on, we spend the night. Most of our characters, no problem. But we do have 2 rogues in the group. So we send Malark and Vermilion out to go and see if the cult has treasures here that we can loot ourselves. And they come away with some precious items. Didn't really tell us about them, even though I offered to give one of them invisibility if they didn't feel confident in their stealth abilities. And they didn't cut me in for a share. Nah, that's okay. I don't care. It's only money. So we finally get back to Waterdeep. We have no problem getting into Waterdeep. They know us. So we go through and we get back and we decide what we're going to do. For example, Glint is all about getting to the magic shop. He needs more magical hammers. The man's obsessed. I decide that I want to go back to the guild hall and talk to Emion, the senior spellcaster of the guild, and also the senior advisor to Bryn. Kytheon thinks it's a good idea too, so that's what Corbrecht and Kytheon do. They go and they're like, "Hey, you heard what we did. This is our report, but we really need some advice on what to do with this, the Black Dragon Mask." And he's like, "Okay, meet me after supper, 7 o'clock. We'll have a meeting. Someplace we can't be overheard. I've got some things to tell you guys." Okay, great. Hey, this elder warlock with really good spellcasting ability wants to talk to us. This is good. We trust him. Well, as much as Corbrecht trusts anybody. We go to Bryn. We talk to her. She's like, "Yes, you did well. Very well. Good job, everyone." We talk to Tabra. Use the Wayfinder to send a message spell to her. Apparently, message spells are how everybody communicates in the Forgotten Realms, which is fine. It's a good spell. And she's like, "Okay, I happen to be in Waterdeep. Let's meet." The reason we really wanted to talk to her was because when we felled Resmer, we got her greatsword. Her greatsword is a nasty piece of work. I identified it. It's intelligent, neutral evil. It's proud and has a very strong will. It is a sort of wounding. It's +2, and it's got some very nice abilities, including creating a dimension door, a couple other spells. Yeah, it's nice. But it's evil. And this isn't even, subtle evil, like it's philosophically opposed to you. No, it wants to do some bad stuff. I tried negotiating with the sword. I'm like, hey, I know you can talk. What do you want? And it's like, I'm not talking to you. I'm like, well, we're in control of where we have you, we are in possession, and we can work towards your destruction, or we can try to find if we can have an accord. And it wouldn't talk to me. So Kytheon seems to have taken it as his personal crusade not to just melt the sword down, which Corbrecht would do, but he wants to try to reforge it and kick out the neutral evil identity and put in a good one. To that end, he's looking for options. Galhard has no claim to it, and although I can imagine what Galhard would do with that thing, and obviously Corbrecht wouldn't use it. So, since he's got a strong will, the sword seems to like him. That's his thing. So we're letting Kytheon deal with that. But we talked to Tabra for about a few things, including about the dragon masks. She's doing research, but she didn't have a lot of really hard information for us at this point. She did get to talking a little bit, though. And, we found out some things. We know that she's a super powerful wizard from back in the Netheril Empire. And that she's got a lot of enemies, and she's got a lot of resources that we can really use through the course of this adventure. But at the same time, she's a little loath to help us and throw herself right into the power games because, well, she hasn't lived all this time to just throw it away now. So, we left under good terms. Then we get to the meeting with Emion. Emion actually takes us to a manor house, very, very fine house in the noble quarters. And he takes us to a place and uses a plane shift. So we actually go to his personal demi-plane. Corbrecht wants one of these, although the place is kind of freaky. Dead grass, huge gears twisting up in the sky, swords sticking in the ground, thousands and thousands of swords. Now we know that Emion's warlock, and his Eldritch Blast is actually an arcane sword that flies out and skewers his opponents. So we know he's got a sword thing going on. This place, bit trippy, very, very surreal. But it's his thing. Corbrecht doesn't like the core of the place, but he would like his own demi-plane, certainly. Makes some things so much easier. So we talked. And he kind of reminded us that way back when this campaign first started, we were actually tasked to deal with Bryn's father, who went mad and died on some sort of quest. And Bryn had it handed down on a piece of paper from her father with all of the first generation of characters' names. That would be Galhard, Kytheon, Lydia, the elf. Now I can't remember his name, for crying out loud. Let's go back to the beginning of this. Tredovic. And, well, Malik's gone. Our art is gone. But Glint, Kytheon, Lydia, Tredovic, and Galhard. We're all supposed to get together, and somehow we were the key. Well, we kind of went away from that with this whole dragon cult thing, going through the adventure of the Hoard of the Dragon Queen. So we really weren't worried about her dad to this point, because we found out that this was possibly ending the world type stuff. We actually had a face-to-face meeting with Bahamut, for crying out loud. So, importance things, saving the world, worrying about her dad didn't seem all that important. Well, Emion told us that her father had actually been talking to one of the Archdukes of the Nine Hells, Zariel, the Archduke of the first layer of the Nine Hells, Avernus. He was, obviously a very, very powerful, very, very intelligent, and apparently Renoir wanted to get some information, and he was willing to deal with possibly one of the most scary people that you could actually demand questions of. But as a wizard, you kind of hope that he knew the game he was playing. And what Emion walked in on when he found out that he was doing this was that Renoir was looking for Ilum's Bane, to look for something called the Blood of Bahamut. So, Emion didn't find out a lot more about this, but one thing he was able to do was he was able to take and show us where Renoir's lab is. And he gated us right to it. Now, the lab is everything a crazy wizard might want, and maybe a sensible one. It has an alchemical lab on one side. Yay, because half of us are alchemists, and we would love to have our own secreted lab. It's got a huge library with all kinds of lore. Spell books, yes, there's spell books there. But there's also all of his personal notes. We also found a place where there was, secreted scrolls and more journals. So we got a lot of information dumped on us at once. We were inquisitive, we searched around, we tried to find every little scrap that we could get away with in a short, concentrated search. The demi-plane of Emion actually has a fast time travel thing. So we actually looked at some books while we were in the demi-plane. For the most part, we found out that the best speculation anybody had was that the masks of the Dragon Queen could be destroyed by the breath weapon of the dragon that was represented by the mask. So to destroy the black, we need a black dragon to breathe on it. We happen to know where there's a black dragon. We're not ready to face it yet, but yeah. That might end up being something that we end up doing. But a couple of things kept coming up. The blood of Bahamut, we ended up finding out that the blood of Bahamut was supposedly a way to seal Tiamat away from the world. We found out that it isn't actually blood, nor is it, well, it's sort of from Bahamut. Bahamut actually elevated up a dragon as his avatar, and his name became the Blood of Bahamut. So, this Blood of Bahamut is something that can be used to stop Tiamat from coming over, but apparently the father of Bryn, he was a staunch enemy of the Cult of the Dragon, and he was personally focused on the Cult of the Dragon too, so these missions just paralleled together. So we found out that Ilum's Bane, Ilum being the mentor of Tabra, is the place where he fell. This place was a city full of illithid mind flayers. It was called Elental. We found this because we got into some correspondence that Renoir had with Mithrin something something. He was a gold dragon that Renoir knew, and they saw eye to eye. So when Renoir was doing all this research, he corresponded with this gold dragon. So we found out some of the correspondence. So he was looking for Elental. Supposedly in Elental, we discovered... actually, no, I'm jumping ahead. So we did all this research. We contacted Tabra again because we want to talk to her about some of this stuff. We asked her about Ilum's Bane. She related to us that that was the place where she killed everybody in the city after they had betrayed and murdered her master. The illithid that they had been training in the arcane arts, courtesy of the Netherese Empire, were the Alhun, which now are Illitholiches. Mind Flayer undead liches. Nasty. Very nasty. So, she killed everybody, and as a result, that life force has been sustaining her for all this time, easily. So, as it turns out, the city supposedly has nothing really in it anymore. But Renoir went there. He quested for the place, and supposedly they have something called the Oracle of Elental. It is something that can grant answers to questions, but it nibbles away at the asker's sanity. Which seems to make sense because Renoir was completely barking mad when he returned and died shortly thereafter. It seems that that happened to him. So we can at least possibly go to Ellental and get some answers if we can afford the time. It's all about timing at this point. We don't know if we have the time to go jumping around and try to get all the answers we need. We have a couple of days ahead of us, and then there's going to be this big council in Waterdeep. People from all over are coming, and this is drawing together people from all of the factions we're familiar with a possible exception of the Zentarum, which a lot of people aren't comfortable with, although they may make themselves known anyhow. They've probably got feelers in all the other organizations, and they will certainly will find out about this. But we're going to talk about what to do about the Cult of the Dragon. Obviously, we're going to be there because we scored a major victory against them, but, you know, how this meeting goes and everything, I'm kind of stuck right now because, quite honestly, I've got two separate characters with two different points of view. Only Corbrecht's is really important. The other one, Galahard, is a great guy, but I'm glad I have another character with a little bit more depth, at least. But as it stands right now, the council is in 7 days. I think it was 8 days when we started, and it's the next day. And we have a lot of potential running around to do some role-playing, some problem-solving and that, but we need to get a lot of answers before we're really ready to take the next step and figure out where we're going to go from here. We still want to keep hitting the worm speakers if they're not together. But we don't know exactly where to strike, hoping that the Harpers and others will give us some information because that's what they're good for, and we'll be able to act. Probably end up fighting some more dragons, too. Yay! But we're getting good at it, so that's not so bad. But anyhow, that is this is what we've done. Up till now, I think we are, we've had our victories and everything, and the timbre and tenor of the game right now seems a little bit slower because of the getting used to not being face-to-face, but I think we'll get used to it and iron things out. This is a clarion call to all of us to kind of try to take these sessions as seriously as we would if we were face-to-face. I know it's hard with the distractions of the house around us, but let's try to stay on point and get to the game and work to get together, because it's a good story. I think we have great characters and can still do some great things. So I'm Rob for Corbrecht and Galahard. Thank you for joining me, and I will see you the next time we have more to report from here in the state of the dungeon. Farewell.